Lefty Gunplay was born Franklin Holladay and is from the city of Baldwin Park, a notorious area considered to be one of the most dangerous sections of the San Gabriel Valley. Located on the east side of the San Gabriel Valley, it is a city with a deep, rich Mexican-American history and a haven for crime and gangs. Lefty Gunplay is a product of an environment that breeds a gang culture considered by some to be one of the most violent areas in California. This is the Franklin Holladay experiment. Franklin Holladay, coming from the city of Baldwin Park, never was considered a hardcore gang member. He is someone that grew up on the mean streets of Baldwin Park and was more into being a regular kid. Actually, he was a good kid, someone who went to school, someone who paid attention in school, and albeit even though he had his problems just like any other Chicano kid growing up in the ghetto and the barrio, he still tried his best and did his best. He was raised by a single mother and a grandmother. And albeit it wasn't the best of times, he made the best out of it. Considered an energetic kid and a great kid, he had a bright future. But at the same time, when you grow up in an area that's as gang infested and overpopulated, where people are living on top of each other, and there's a lot of rats and roaches and shiesty approaches, then one only knows what he sees around him. He becomes a product of his environment. Now, Lefty Gunplay did go to school and did graduate, which is very rare for someone to graduate and grow up to be a gangster rapper. I don't think he aspired to be a gangster rapper. That was even in his future. But at the same time, life takes twists and turns and puts you in different paths and different directions. It's all about the people you meet, the people that you hang around with, the people that you come in contact with. And when you're making a gang of lefts, sometimes you make a right. But when your name's Lefty Gunplay, sometimes you just can't get right. Now, Lefty Gunplay is probably the most energetic, charismatic individuals right now in the rap game. He has taken the rap game by storm, especially in Southern California, a regional area that has been known to produce some of the best gangster rappers like Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, The Game, Ice Cube, and the late Nipsey Hussle. Now, at the same time, when you look around the city of Los Angeles and the valleys, Sun Valley, San Fernando Valley, San Gabriel Valley, what you see is dark desolation. You see a lot of gangs. You see a lot of gang members, a lot of people with no hope. But within that darkness, there's always a beacon of light. Some consider Lefty Gunplay at this moment in time to be that beacon of light, especially for the Mexican-American people, the Chicano people, and the Mexicano people. It's time for the raza to stand up, and Lefty Gunplay is definitely in Southern California leading the charge. Considered by some to be the face of LA, he has taken that title and ran with it. Now, Lefty Gunplay first hit the scene a few years back upon his release from incarceration, where he was doing 9 years in prison in the notorious Pelican Bay State Prison SHU program. Now, of course, Lefty Gunplay has had a lot of ups and downs in his life. And, not everyone is perfect. People make mistakes. As a young kid growing up in Southern California or even Northern California, there's decisions to be made, food to be brought to that table, and sometimes you have to bust a knock or make a move that you necessarily wouldn't do if you grew up in a different type of neighborhood. But being that you grew up in an urban neighborhood, a barrio or a hood or a ghetto, you sometimes have to be a man before it's your time and make decisions you wouldn't necessarily make. Now, Lefty Gunplay got caught up. Like I said, as a kid, he was a good youngster. Typical kid, riding bikes, hanging around with friends and family. And there's been several videos on social media that show him with his family, and he looked like a very energetic, good kid. But somewhere along the line, he started to hang around with what was considered tagger gangs. Now, for those that don't know, in the mid-90s to late 90s, the tagger crews became very popular, especially in Southern California. And they started to toe the line and cross the line over to full gang membership. And it was actually documented that somewhere in the mid-90s, there was actually directives that went out from the inside of the prisons that said that there would no longer be tag bangers allowed, that they would either have to choose up. They would have to choose the southern side or the other side. So a lot of these gangs actually disbanded, or they became well-known barrios. They started to catch bodies. They started to do crimes. They started to take on the ways of the local gang members, which were considered Southsiders, Crips, Bloods, etc. Lefty Gunplay found himself in a conundrum. He found himself in a situation where being a tag gangbanger, he was going to have to make a decision. The decision was simple. He chose the vario over everything. And of course, that decision right there led him down a dark road of incarceration. Now, the city of Baldwin Park has several barrios. And the hood that Lefty Gunplay chose to be from was probably one of the smaller barrios or smaller cliques. The bigger well-known gangs are Eastside Baldwin Park and several other barrios that come from the San Gabriel Valley and the city of Baldwin Park. Now, Lefty Gunplay has always been one to go against the grain, to not take dictation, to be the man. And at the end of the day, it has worked out in his favor. Some might say, you're going to mind somebody. You're going to mind another man. And, as a Mexican American growing up in the hood myself, I can say that that's exactly the way it is. No matter how big and bad you think you are, there's always going to be someone bigger and badder. But along comes the rap game. And over the 90s, I'd say from the 80s, 90s to the 2000s, the rap game has been on explosive mode. It has exploded. Where traditionally rap, hip hop was considered black culture, was considered heavy black culture. And there wasn't too many Mexicans involved. But about the mid 90s to the late 90s, Southern California rappers started to take on the persona of being more infatuated with hip hop and producing more rappers. Now, traditionally, Mexicans have had a genre called Chicano rap. I think rap is just rap. And I think Lefty Gunplay and several other rappers from Southern California and Northern California are changing the game. They are taking it from the old school Chicano style of rap to just hip hop, period. A lot of people like to say they're being multicultural. They're taking on a more of an urban flavor. And regardless of what you think, at the end of the day, whatever works and whatever gets that bag, that should be the model. There's an old school saying when it comes to gang members, and it kind of aligns with hip hop, because hip hop is a treacherous game, a cutthroat game, where you're going to have a lot of haters. You're going to have a lot of people that go against the grain and don't like you for whatever reason. People don't hate you because of who you are. They support popularity. They hate you if you're popular, and they hate you if you're not. Okay? One of the phrases or one of the things that I used to remember from back in my days when I was an active gang member that used to coincide with rap was we were always trying to kill some shit. You're always trying to be that number one and kill the next rapper. Maybe not in a literal sense, but in a sense of word. To kill is a cruel necessity, but if one does not kill, how can one conquer? And if one does not conquer, what future is there for our people? So we're always in search of leadership. As young Mexicans, young Chicanos, young blacks and whites, Samoans, Tongans, Asians, we all share a commonality. The common thing is we're all searching for leadership to lead us in the direction, but never forget our history. Lefty Gunplay has risen to the top. In a short amount of time since his release from incarceration at Pelican Bay, he has become, like I said, considered by most the face of LA. Now, I've had my qualms about Lefty Gunplay, his rap skills, some of the things he says on social media, but I can't deny the fact that he's a star in the making. Upon his release, as he sat down, and it's been documented by many podcasts, Lefty Gunplay himself has said that he never thought he was going to be a rapper. Never even thought like that. It wasn't even in his future. But then somewhere along the line decided he needed to do something with himself when he got released. Now, most people that get released out of prison that are active gang members or participating in the gang, associating in gangs, they usually get out, get right back to what they were doing that led them up into incarceration. But there are those very few that have that change the course of their life. Lefty Gunplay has been one of the few to have been able to do that up until this point. Now, his persona of an active gang member, a certified stepper, has left many to wonder if Lefty Gunplay is really about everything he says he's about. I can pretty much certify that Lefty Gunplay is everything he says he is. He is not what you would think a regular Southsider or Sureño would be. When he first got out of prison, he was doing podcasts, telling everybody about his time, who he did time with, his association. but he kept just enough under wraps to make people wonder. That aura and that air of mystery to Lefty, he knew how to play his cards right. And I think that's kind of the mystery behind him. I think that's kind of why he's blown up and people are watching every move he makes. Now, along the line, he's gained a lot of attention, whether it be from women, fans, support, people that just want to see the Southern side win, gang members, youngsters that aspire to be rappers, or youngsters that aspire to be gang members. He is definitely winning in the popularity contest, but along the way, he has gained a lot of hate and a lot of negative attention. Social media is a breeding ground for hate and is a breeding ground for trolling. And this man has been seen nothing less than his fair share of trolling and hate. Does he deserve it? Is he deserving of all this because of what people think he puts on as a facade? I don't believe so. I believe Lefty is one of the truly outspoken individuals of this era. The man just doesn't give a shit. He says what he means and he means what he says. Now, at the end of the day, you can't make everybody happy. And I don't think his intentions are to make anyone happy. I think his intentions are to put food on the table, to get his family out of the barrio, and to take care of his children and himself. And I commend him for that. I got to respect it. Do I respect the derogatory ways sometimes he carries himself and things that he says? Do I respect the hatred between the Norteños and the Southerners and the way he fuels the fire? I don't. I don't respect that, but I can never belittle a man for something I did myself in the past. I can't be a hypocrite. I got to respect what is now considered the Franklin Holladay experiment. And let me explain to you what the Franklin Holladay experiment is. This is a young kid, 27 years of age, someone who's feeling that he can conquer the world, and he's having to overcome a lot of obstacles, whether it be record labels, trolling, social media, disrespect, hate. There's always more good than bad, but there is a lot of bad that comes with that good. And he has been able, up until this point, he's been able to navigate it pretty good. I would say that Lefty Gunplay, as popular as he is at this moment in time, has navigated them waters, them shark-infested waters, pretty smooth. There's been other rappers like Swifty Blue, Chito Ranas, and several other Southern California rappers that have come along that have been kind of complacent, or their music has been redundant. They have not been able to get out of that shell, and it is because of the way that they fall into the social media bickering back and forth. Now, lately, Lefty Gunplay's been in the news. There was an incident that took place. It was an accumulation of podcasts and an accumulation of, I would say, different individuals speaking on different individuals, maybe some miscommunication, maybe some people fueling and stroking the fire, maybe some pure hatred and some true hatred from individuals that think Lefty Gunplay is susceptible to being a follower. I don't see that man as a follower. I see him as a leader of this generation in this genre, and it's going to be up to him to see where he goes next with it and what he does. But there's been some incidents that have happened in the last month. And one of them has been the No Jumper podcast that several of these young rappers in this new generation have decided to frequent. Now, it's up to you if you pay attention to Adam 22 and the No Jumper podcast and the propaganda that they spew and spit out. But they do have, I cannot deny that Adam does have a professional platform and does have a lot of talent, and he has good communication with this talent to get him on his podcast. But in the midst of getting him on his podcast, there are some questions that are asked that can leave only those that know what's up to wonder, what is this guy's agenda? What's his true motivation? His distaste and his hatred for the raza has shown on several occasions. And it just boggles my mind and makes me wonder why these younger rappers would even aspire to go upon that podcast to sit down and conversate with an individual that really doesn't like what he sees across the table from them. But I understand the situation of business. Never let personal feelings wreck your business. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't see no gain, but to each their own. Lefty has went upon that podcast and been asked several questions by Adam, whereas he's taken things to heart and he has disrespected Norteños on several occasions. These are rappers from Northern California. Not only did he disrespect rappers personally, but he also disrespected the whole Norteño movement and cause as a whole. Now, this led people to believe that Lefty Gunplay thought he was better or thinks he's better than the Northern California rappers. And I don't think this is a situation where Lefty thinks he's better, but definitely if you want to keep your star lit and you want to keep shining, you have to be a little controversial. You have to say things that are outside of the box that are going to make people wonder. Again, that's the aura and the era of mystery, right? Lefty Gunplay is definitely good at doing that. Again, the circle he keeps around him, I'm sure keep him at check-in times. He's still young. He's still learning the ropes. He's still new to the hip-hop scene, to the rap scene, to this new generation and the way it's moving. You know, we're talking about someone who did 9 years in Pelican Bay State Prison. And let me explain to you about the CDC, the California Department of Corrections. It's not simple. It's not for the simple-minded or the weak or the faint of heart. Okay, the California Department of Corrections is one of the most treacherous, vicious, dangerous places on earth. And when you go in there and you're considered an active gang member on general population, you have to carry yourself on an extreme level with a lot of professionalism and class. And I know it makes people wonder, thinking, how can you be in an environment that's as vicious as prison and have professionalism and class? Well, I can't explain to you why those are the exact words used, but you're going to abide by those rules and those politics within those walls, or you're not going to make it back home to your family. So I could understand Lefty Gunplay having to navigate those waters of prison and being able to do that and still get out as a solid individual. Not everybody is cut from that cloth, and not everyone can do that. He definitely did it, and I got a lot of respect for him for doing that because it's not easy. Do I have respect for him for being incarcerated? Absolutely not. Do I have respect for him for breaking the laws of society and man? Absolutely not. But do I have respect for him as a man and believe that he needs a social status of equality and his fair shake? Absolutely. That individual is just like anyone else who got caught up in a situation where he did a crime. For whatever reason he did it, he deserves a second chance. Unless it's some weird shit. Then you don't deserve the first chance. But he was able to do his 9 years. You know, and I remember when Lefty Gunplay first came out, and there was a lot of people saying, his math wasn't mathing. You know, he first got out and he said he did 13 years, and then it was 10, and then it became 9. And, I looked into it. I did my homework before I did the spill, and I could tell you he was sentenced to 13 years, and of course he did 85%, so he did 9 on the 13, which is righteous and makes a lot of sense. This man was sent to Pelican Bay. And as a young man on his first term incarcerated, that's a hard pill to swallow. That's not easy. That's not simple. Okay, that is one of the most notorious and dangerous places on earth that this man was set into. He was basically set in the bull pit and expected to carry himself a certain way. Now, a lot of people listen to Lefty Gunplay's podcasts and they see his interviews and they think, how can an individual that carries himself in such a manner be able to conduct himself in a place like Pelican Bay and get out in one piece? Well, that's very simple. Who says that the Franklin Holladay that we're listening to and seeing is the real Franklin Holladay? Let me explain to you what I've taken from doing my homework, who the real Franklin Holladay is, the real Lefty Gunplay. We see these podcasts and we see this person, man, who at times seems inebriated, on drugs, what they would consider a scante warrior. That's not what I see. I see a young man confused with stardom. I see a young man that's crying out for help and needs a good situation around him. I see a man that is about his business and willing and able to conduct his business, but at the same time, he does need those around him to assist him. That's just the type of person he is. Not everybody is a born leader, but some people get thrust into it, and it's what they do with what they're thrust into. What they have to do is what they have to do. Simply put, Lefty Gunplay is considered the face of LA, regardless if we like it or not. Baldacci is considered the face of LA, whether you like it or not. But they come from two different eras. Two different situations. Whereas Baldacci is still of that 90s era, that old school gangster mentality. When I think old school gangster mentality, Ben Davis's high socks, Cortez's, I think Baldacci de Florencia. When I think this new era, tighter pants, more of a hip hop generation, I think Lefty Gunplay. Okay, there's nothing wrong with progression and change. Change is a good thing. Our people need change because obviously the same things that we've been doing for generations and years have not worked out in the benefit of the raza, the Chicanos, the Mexicanos, the Latinos, period. So it's time for a change. And if Lefty Gunplay is going to be the leader in Southern California of that change, I'm all for it and I respect it. Now, at the same time, a lot of the situations that Lefty's Gunplay has found himself caught up in, I'm sure he could do without. And I see these situations as hindrances and stepping stones on his path to greatness. Will he be considered one of the greatest rappers of all time? Who says he's not ever going to be a great rapper now? Maybe not of all time, maybe not in the future, but he's great at what he does now because obviously he's been able to garner and gain the attention of pretty much the nation right now. Not only does he have a regional sound or does he have a regional fan base, but this man has a fan base all over America. He's touring in the southwestern states. He's taking trips to the East Coast. He's starting to be known as pretty much one of the hottest Latino rappers out at this time. And there's no denying it. I myself am from Northern California. I respect the Norteño movement. I understand the situation and the hatred between Lefty Gunplay and the Norteños at this point in time. But I can't deny the obvious. The obvious is this man is making moves. He's making power moves and shower shoes. And here's some knowledge you can't get in college. He's going to continue to do that as long as he keeps a good team around him and he keeps his head on straight. He's definitely going to do that. Why do I call it the Franklin Holladay experiment? Because it's an experiment to see if a young Chicano can do it, if he can be the one to get it done. We've had several Chicano rappers, brown rappers, that have been on the cusp of blowing up. Little Rob, Baby Bash, Burner, several others, and none have ever been able to achieve that next step in the hip hop game. They might have been able to conduct themselves as good businessmen like Burner, and of course you got the Mexican OT and several other Northern and Southern California rappers and Texas rappers and Arizona rappers and New Mexico rappers. You know, I'm thinking the southwestern states here. They've all been able to do it to some form or fashion, but at the end of the day, there's no one that has been able to break the barriers down. Can Lefty Gunplay be that one? We will see. Now, do I think his rap skills are the best? Actually, I don't, but he's very charismatic. He's of a pragmatic nature. He's the type of individual that I could see being around, and he's fun to be around. He's a down homie that's definitely might not be all there at times or considered, a little odd, a little different, but at least he speaks his mind and tells you exactly what it is. See, you got to respect that about a person that'll tell you exactly what time it is and really mean that shit. That's a real one. Okay, that's what I consider a real one. Whether you like it, you hate it, you love it, he's going to be there and he's going to be him. And that's a fact. Now, I wanted to speak upon the Bands situation. Bands is a very good rapper from Northern California, from the city of Santa Rosa. And, Bands was on the No Jumper podcast, and he was asked some questions by Adam 22. And it seems like every rapper that gets on No Jumper, Adam likes to mention Lefty Gunplay. And that's actually a two-edged sword because he mentions them to try to get a soundbite to get people to basically disrespect him or speak upon his name. But at the same time, that is also helping Lefty Gunplay and showing just how powerful his character is, the man he is, the rapper he is. When people are speaking upon your name and talking about you, just like me doing in this spill, that means you have some type of power. Most that will speak on your name will do it out of respect. There are those that will do it out of hate. Case in point, Adam asked Bands about Lefty, to which he knows that Lefty in the past has disrespected the Norteño cause for whatever reason. Lefty that's his business. But he decided to, challenge the validity and the authenticity of Lefty Gunplay. And it got to a point where he got so frustrated and angry that he actually, did a diss video in Lefty Gunplay's neighborhood of Baldwin Park. Now, there's been many people that have been online, and it's pretty much split between North and South, that Lefty Gunplay got played, or Lefty Gunplay should fight back. And I've been a very big proponent for saying he should leave it where it's at. It's just music. It's just a diss. It's very simple. If anything was to happen, who would be the first person they would come looking at? Of course, Lefty Gunplay. So the best thing for him to do is continue to shine. The best way to antagonize a situation or to make a person feel bad about themselves is to succeed, homie. Succeed. Success is the best revenge ever served cold. Believe me, it's better than lumpy oatmeal. Do we think in a society that we're in now, on the brink of war, on the brink of more haterism than we've ever seen, so much change is happening every day, that a young Chicano from the San Gabriel Valley, Baldwin Park, can become that one, can be considered one of the great rappers? Maybe. Maybe he is the one and maybe he's not. It's the Franklin Holladay experiment. I guess there's only one way to find out. Do I respect this guy? I absolutely do. Just like I respect every other young Chicano rapper coming up in the game, I believe our time is now, homies. And I believe the time has come for the gente da raza to kick down the doors, not to allow them to be opened. I say that to say this. Lefty Gunplay is considered by many hated, but there's no denying, man, with songs like Boulevard Baby and Start My Life from Scratch and, Letter to My Friends and several other songs, man, he is truly the rookie of the year. Now, I've heard a lot of stories about Lefty Gunplay. Um, I take into account, I've seen stories of him on IG being showing the human side of him with his kids, or talking about going to the beach and basically letting everything go and taking walks on the sand and being human. I respect that about him. Not only is he considered the certified stepper and the world's most famous gangbanger, which of course is just a persona that he puts on in the rap industry. You got to understand, when you're a gangster rapper, you have to be on at all times. You have to be up and on. You have to be gangster 24 hours out of the day. But hey, man, like my grandfather used to tell me when I was young, the party has to end sometimes, right? In order to do this and to play this role and put on this persona, you have to be on and working hard. It takes a hard worker, not a lazy person, to tour and to write songs and to get in the booth and to keep that game face on at all times, especially when you're most hated. See, the most loved people in the world will also be the most hated. It's usually a 50-50 thing. Will Franklin Holladay, Lefty Gunplay be one of those ones to outlast everyone? I guess we'll see. Do I think his incarceration and his history of being a gang member helps him? Absolutely. It makes you have thick skin. It makes him know that when he's in environments, he could survive because he's already survived one of the worst environments, in the history. So I respect his get down, man. And we'll see where Lefty goes from here. His star's getting brighter and brighter. And I'll say this, I was one of the first persons to say when I first seen Lefty Gunplay, I thought he was a gimmick. I thought he was another 6ix9ine minus the telling. I thought he was an individual that was just clout chasing and really wasn't about his business. And at the end of the day, after reanalyzing the situation and watching him from a distance, I could truly say, man, I support this kid. And it doesn't matter to me what side he's from. And I know the disrespect's always going to be there. And even me doing this video, man, I'm not considered in good standing. So people are going to say, why are you speaking on the active homie? I'm not speaking on him, man. I'm speaking for him. And that's just a fact. Anyways, with that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive to struggle and the struggle to strive. We're going to do what we do, man.